Amazing. Hello, everybody that is entering our webinar today, or our Zoom hangout today, our virtual session. Welcome to the Department of Residence and our housing presentation. So I'll wait a couple minutes for everyone to join us. We need to get some, does anyone, oh, we have a singer-songwriter person here. Charlie, I think we require some singing, some interlude. What are your thoughts on that?
My thoughts on that is I wish I would have had more notice.
No, you don't, not just gonna pick it up?
I don't think so.
That's okay, I appreciate
thanks for the
it.
shout out.
Charlie doesn't do this for free. You gotta pay him.
It's like, Ryan, are you gonna do it?
Yeah, right. Everyone's gonna run away.
I know Sam Hudson was on the singer-songwriter floor in her first year.
Oh my gosh, she quietly let me pass that by. Okay. So thank you again to everyone that's logging in with us. I want to welcome you to the Department of Residence presentation, and that we will be discussing what it's like to live in residence. So I'm going to wait just a couple more minutes to see if we have more friends that join us, but we are happy to answer your questions and move through the presentation. Ideally throughout, we'll try to provide as much content as possible. But if you do have questions, if you'd like to share them in the chat through the Q&A function, we would love to see those come up and we'll try to answer them as best we can. So for my wonderful team here that are sitting in our spaces, if you can see the Q&A part of it, and there are student life questions related to aspects of residence that you know and feel comfortable responding to, that would be amazing. And then Ryan and I will keep an eye on some of the more intricate administrative questions to make sure that we're answering those too. Sometimes we might go through and answer them out loud if we've got a lot of questions that are coming through at the same time, but we'll try to do our best. Thank you, Victoria. Yes, we have our pronouns here. We think that's extremely important. So all of us really want to ensure that we're making sure everyone feels comfortable, can also share what their pronouns are with us. So we will discuss that more. Okay, we're at 75. Can I get a time check right now? 12:04. Okay, so what I think might make sense for us is that we start here, and if we have more friends that join us afterwards, we can jump through that later. But I want to again welcome you to the Department of Residence presentation. We are so happy to be here. First and foremost, before we get to the presentation and who we are, we want to do and think it's crucial to do a land acknowledgement. So the Kitchener, Waterloo, Cambridge, and Brantford residences and the Laurier campuses are on the traditional territory of the neutral Anishinaabe and Haudenosaunee people. So just getting used to, and I hope that once you join Laurier and at your current secondary schools, you've started to see these happen within our spaces. And if not something, I hope you bring this back to your communities. Just to read, our land acknowledgement is not something you just do before an event. Rather, it's a reflection process in which you build mindfulness and intention walking into whatever gathering you are having. It should be rooted in those whose land you are honored to stand on and should guide how you move forward in both conversations and actions. And we think that is crucial to where we are, what spaces we reside, and how we want to honor those communities. So you'll get used to hearing those at a variety of our presentations and within our spaces on our campus as we take those really important. So moving forward, I want to introduce myself and my colleague, teammate really, Ryan. So my name is Rachel. My pronouns are she, her, and I am one of the residence education coordinators on our Waterloo campus. Within my position, I oversee our residence learning communities, and you're going to hear a lot about those from Ryan. And I also oversee our residence education advisors, who we have one of our staff members on the call. I don't know if you can see everybody, but Samantha, I'm going to go with the Samantha today. today. Samantha Hudson is one of our REAs, and she oversees kind of the transition to the first year experience and supporting that. So if that's not a term you've ever used or heard before, just wanted to shout that out. And then I have Ryan with me, and if Ryan wants to introduce himself.
Hi, everybody. So thank you, Rachel. Just like you said, my name is Ryan. My pronouns are he, him. I'm one of 6 residence life area coordinators on the Waterloo campus. So basically what that means is I live in residence just like some of the students and some of the Dons and the residence education advisors. And I work to support first year students with whatever they may have going on, primarily by supervising a lot of the Dons who live in the building. So I also did my undergrad at Laurier, and I'm really passionate about this presentation, and I hope to see lots of you around campus soon. One thing I do want to say is I hope this doesn't come up, but I'm on call right now, so if there are any emergencies, I will have to answer my phone, but Rachel is perfectly equipped to just, if I have to step out for a few minutes, take over right where I left off. So.
See, and that's our department in real time. You get to see that we take safety and security of our community very seriously. So Ryan works on call and may have to go navigate and support a student or a situation if needed. So yes, we're happy to have him, and fingers crossed that's not what needs to happen. We want to keep him here, but if not, we'll keep progressing. So moving on, we're going to get into what are we going to talk about today? So our agenda for today, we're going to talk about living choices, so options, costs, how to apply to live in residence. So not only do you need to then apply to the institution, to Laurier, when you apply to a program, you also need to apply then to live in residence to let us know, hey, I want to stay in residence for my first year. We're going to talk about roommates, accommodations, the different styles and pieces. I'm going to discuss meal plans, how to get involved in residence. That's where a lot of the fun happens. And that's really what sets us apart from a lot of other institutions, is the ways you can get involved and the people who are involved in them. And then we're going to do some live tours. We got students that live in our residence spaces right now. So for y'all that are going to be giving tours, I don't know if everyone can see you, but give us a wave so we can see you, that you're going to be giving a tour and showing your spaces. Amazing. And so we'll jump in. So the residence application, some important deadlines for us to acknowledge is that there is a $600 non-refundable residence deposit, and that is due the same time as the deadline to apply to residence. So for the most part, every single year, the deadline is June 1st. So this year it is going to be 11:59 p.m. on Wednesday, June 1st of 2022. So the $600 non-refundable deposit is required for that, as well as the residence disability and medical verification form for accessibility and medical concerns should be received. You've got a little bit of time after the overall deadline to apply to residence, should be submitted by Tuesday, June 8th. Or I think that's Wednesday. I think we might have forgotten. I think we changed it. Sorry, folks. It's a Wednesday this year, June 8th, 2022, but it needs to be received by 4:30. So we'll touch base a little bit on what that means. But you need to make sure you submit that medical documentation if you require it, in order for us to best accommodate you in your residence spaces. Now, some other pieces as it comes to our online residence application system. When you apply to Laurier, you need to receive an offer of admission in order to apply to live in residence. So unfortunately, if you haven't received an offer yet, you still have to hold out, you still have to wait. I know we all want to go to Laurier. As we were saying, a number of us have been here for quite some time. I did my undergrad and my master's degree here. Ryan's finishing his master's as well. So we are Laurier lifers, we get it, we love it here, but you have to have an offer before you apply to residence. However, once you get an offer, you don't have to confirm that you would 100% like to be a Laurier student to apply to residence. As long as you've got that offer in hand, you can apply. You'll receive an email from the Department of Residence with information on how to apply for residence. So we will send you information that says, okay, the application is now open, here's how you apply. And you don't need to complete the application in one setting. So if you want to come and work on a little bit of a piece here, but you need some more detailed information, or you want to sign up with a roommate and you need to connect with them as well, you can save it and access it at a later time. So we want to make it as useful for you as possible. However, The deadline to apply is June 1st at 11:59. So make sure that you're filling out your application in advance of that deadline, because if everyone's doing it at the same time, it can make it really challenging on our system, and we want to make sure we get your application. Going into what the application system actually looks like. This is an old version, so it might look a little bit different, but this is essentially what the online application looks like that you would log into in order to apply. So you'll get the information on how to log in with your credentials and the information needed, and then you'll see the different aspects on the top here. So we have home, applications, roommates, my account, and more. When we get to the applications part, this is where you'll want to go in order to get started on your first year residence application. Going into how we determine room assignments. So room assignments are generally lottery based, meaning that when you apply, it is based on the system that we have and how it places students in our spaces. So there isn't a preference system where you would say, I want to live in this building, in this room, on this floor. Unfortunately, that's not how our process works. If you would like to apply, you apply, and everyone else is entered into a lottery system. However, you can still put your first and second choices within that process. So if you'd like to put, I would like to live in this style of residence first, and my second choice here, the lottery system will go through your first choice. If you're unsuccessful, we'll move to your second choice and place you in those. So again, we want to try to accommodate your preferences as best we can. We can't guarantee it 100% of the time, but we'll do what we can in order to get there. Placements will largely depend on the number of applications received for each residence style and room. So again, if every student wants to live in a single dormitory style, like some of our RLCs, Sarah here, I can see Sarah, but I know Michaela is there as well. So you may want to live in those spaces, but unfortunately, if every student that applies to residence wants to live in a single dormitory style residence, and we don't have enough of those buildings, we obviously can't accommodate everybody. So that's why the lottery system is in place, depending on who receives and is successful in that. If you've won it, amazing, congratulations, you won the lottery. If not, we'll move to your second choice, as I mentioned before. However, I will say that residence is what you make of it, not necessarily the space in which you live. It's the students that live in your community and the opportunities you get involved in and the people you meet that make your residence experience, not the fact that you have a specific residence room style. So that's important to know. I have lived in every single style on campus at some point in my undergrad. So just know that it's what you make of it and the space you live. So again, typically there's a greater demand for single rooms, especially dorm, semi-private, and dorm single, but you have the opportunity to request a roommate, which is really cool. If you have someone from high school that you're coming to or family friend that you want to partner with or live with, this is how there'll be an opportunity for you to apply for that. Now, we also want to make sure we recognize our diversity and inclusion statement within the Laurier department on the Laurier campus, as well as the Department of Residence. So I just want to read this out to everyone. So Laurier acknowledges and respects the richness and diversity of all members of our community and values their contributions to every aspect of university life. The Department of Residence strives to affirm people of all genders and sexual orientations, persons from diverse backgrounds, origins, and religions, persons with disabilities, Indigenous persons, persons of a visible minority, and other marginalized groups as contributing to the vitality of the Laurier community. The Department of Residence application and room placement process will reflect this belief. In doing so, we embed commitment to diversity, equity, and inclusion in every aspect of the residence experience. The Department of Residence Code of Conduct is aligned with the policies and guidelines captured within institutional documents such as the Residence Hall Agreement, the Gendered Violence and Sexual Violence Policy, and the Non-Academic Student Code of Conduct. So just want to make sure that that's acknowledged, and you'll see how these pieces apply to our residence application process and how we create spaces for students to get involved and want to promote diversity, equity, inclusion, and indigeneity. Within our placement process, we have a gender inclusivity understanding. So when you apply to the Department of Residence, we recognize a student's legal right in Ontario to self-identify their gender or gender identity. So students are placed in residence based on their self-identified gender or gender identity and not their assigned birth gender. So when you apply, you have the ability to identify to us what your self-identified gender is, whether that be cisgender man or male, cisgender woman, female, trans man, trans male, trans woman, trans female, gender non-binary or gender queer, two-spirit, or a different identity. And within that space, then we will place students based on those preferences and in your request on your application. So what does that mean? Essentially, where am I placed? How do I apply this? So we have different versions of our residence housing system. So we have our co-ed housing. Students living in residence building identify as various gender identities, but students are placed in rooms and or apartments with other students who identify as the same gender identity as themselves. Within the single gender housing, so this is only in our Waterloo campus, which is where all of you are most likely applying. However, if you've also applied to a Brantford campus program, this might be a little bit different. So all students living in the residence building identify as the same gender. These communities are available for students who identify as cisgender man, male, or cisgender woman, female, and typically accommodate students with religious or cultural needs who require a single gender environment. And then finally, we have gender inclusive housing. So gender is not considered during the placement process, and students will be placed in co-ed buildings in rooms and or apartments with other students of a variety of gender identities, including but not limited to male, female, trans, non-binary, genderqueer, and a different identity. So when you're applying for a placement, these are some of the concepts you might want to be thinking of to ensure that you get the space and the environment that you're looking for. So within those spaces, again, knowing that if gender doesn't matter to you, you can be placed with any student and have an interest in just getting to know people, then gender inclusive housing might be the perfect fit for you. So it depends what you're interested in, but this is outlined within our residence application system, and you would apply for this in your application. Now, moving into our medical disability and accommodation form. So as I mentioned, the deadline to apply to residence is June 1st, 2022, and then you have until June 8th, 2022 in order to fill out your medical and disability information. So if you require accommodations with respect to your residence placement, based upon medical documentation, a medical condition or disability, you must submit a residence disability and medical verification form, and this form is accessed within the residence application. So no sending forms through email or to different people in the department. You really need to make sure it's submitted through your residence application. So you apply to residence with the application, click submit, and then you can go back into that residence application and add that additional, the additional pieces and the additional forms and documentation required to meet that medical verification. So all verification forms must be received in the residence office by 4:30. So not 11:59, 4:30 on Wednesday, June 8th, 2022. Accessible Learning Center has their own private online registration process. So if you require our Accessible Learning Center on campus, again, we are two different governing bodies. However, the Accessible Learning Center is phenomenal for classroom related requirements or academic related requirements, and they'll support you with peer coaches, peer mentors, and may provide additional supports or accommodations to make sure you're academically successful. But then we also have our housing application requirement for the physical space in which you live within residence. So if you require housing related accommodations with respect to your residence placement, and you also require academic accommodation and access to support services, you must complete two processes. So as I mentioned, we're two governing bodies, one process with the Department of Residence and one process with Accessible Learning Center. So those are two different application and registration requirements. You'll most likely need to meet with an accessible learning consultant within Accessible Learning for the academic requirements of your role separate too. So there's a little bit of a process, but again, we want to make sure that we meet all of the necessities that you require, both in our housing spaces and within our classroom spaces on campus. So what does this look like? What are our different residence styles and room types? So we have both dormitory and apartment style within our buildings on the Waterloo campus. So dormitory style includes both traditional and semi-private. So traditional and semi-private are a little bit different in that in a traditional residence style, which I lived in my first year and absolutely loved it. So Conrad, shout out to Charlie, who's in Conrad right now. That is where majority of the rooms majority, some of them are singles, but majority of the rooms are double dormitory style. So you're sharing a physical space with another person. Essentially what the traditional style means is when you leave your room, you enter a hallway immediately, and therefore you share potentially a washroom space or a communal washroom space with the rest of your floor, the rest of your community. We call each floor a community, so you'll get used to hearing that as well. A semi-private room, which we have Sarah and Michaela in, amazing. In that space, you have most likely, again, a single room, so your own private room, but you're attached to another room by a washroom. So only you and your roommate have access to that washroom, and roommate is used loosely because you still have your own private spaces, but you still, when you leave your rooms, you enter the hallway with the rest of the community. In an apartment style residence, we have a number of faces that are on here. We have Hannah, Aiden, Bridget as well, and Samantha. We're going with Samantha today. I oversee Samantha, so I sometimes jump in back and forth between that. So anyway, you'll get to know me, lots of fun quirks. But apartment style has a variety of different spaces. So we have a regular, premium, and ensuite. So we have a number of students, staff, and students in this call who have an ensuite bathroom, meaning that not only do they live in an apartment, so think of a regular apartment that has a kitchen, living room, dining area, as well as individual bedrooms. And in those bedrooms, there's also sometimes ensuite bathrooms in which you have your own private washroom that you have access to. However, in a regular apartment style, you would share two washrooms to maybe three washrooms if you live in one of our buildings with your roommates. So much like a normal apartment, if you were living in with your family, you would have those shared washroom spaces and still have a shared living room, dining room, and kitchen area. So those are the differences between the apartment and the dormitory style. And then within those two residence styles, there are single rooms, your own private room, and then shared double room where you have a shared living space with another student. So, or shared room, let me make that clear, shared room with another student. So I had that living in Conrad in my first year and had a roommate, and we were friends all throughout university. Got used to our same wake up calls, our alarms, we went to classes together. It was a ton of fun. So it depends on the style you're looking to have and the experience you're hoping to have. It is only 8 months for your first year. All of our residence spaces are only for first year students, unless you choose to work for the department as a DON or residence education advisor, which we have some on our call today. But after that, it's expected that you're moving out of residence and into your own space around our campus. So just some fees. These aren't entirely updated as we are going to be increasing these by about 3% for next year. However, this is what you can expect for our housing fees as it relates to a dormitory style, single and double. Then we have apartment style single, which means it's apartment style with a single room, and then apartment style double. So rooms are currently converted to singles, obviously due to the COVID-19 safety requirements. That's why that looks a little bit different. But those are the costs associated to those spaces. We want to make sure everyone feels safe and able, but we have a number of students this year that are living together and are sharing their spaces together. So we're excited to ideally get back to full capacity with our students and with our spaces and a normal environment. Again, if you have a requirement or a need, you can include that within your residence application to ensure it's navigated when we are placing students. But if you're excited to meet other people, spend some time with different humans, we are so excited for that as well. So some costs and fees associated to that, again, expecting a 3% increase for next year. So here we have our residence deposit. As I mentioned at the beginning, there's a $600 non-refundable deposit, but how do I pay that? So Visa and MasterCard are the only methods of payment that are accepted. So any other type of credit card, debit card, or prepaid card, credit card cannot be used in order to make that payment. And you also can't use your Laurier student account to make those payments. So when you apply to Laurier, you will have and receive a student account, which is where you receive your tuition. It's where you register for your classes. That is also where you have access to your student profile. Loris is not where you would pay those that non-refundable deposit. You have to pay that with your residence application. However, when you pay for tuition, your residence fees will be included in your tuition costs. So just knowing that those are two separate processes. And then it is, again, non-refundable after the June 1st deadline. So after the application deadline to apply, you can no longer then access and can no longer receive that refund back. However, up until that date, if you choose that Laurier is in this institution for you, then we are happy to refund that if needed or if required. So after that deadline, not possible anymore. I promise I'm going through this. I know I'm trying to go fast because there's a lot of content here. I want our people to get a chance to show you their great spaces because there's so much to see, and that's the fun part. I also want Ryan to be able to talk about all the cool things you get to do in our resident spaces. So first and foremost, just want to touch base on roommates. So if you want to live with a roommate, you have someone you want to go to university with, and you want to live in the same space, you've gotten used to each other. I will admit sometimes living with your friends isn't the best option. You can still have friends with them, but they can live in another building. You can build new friendships on your own. Me and my best friend, we would not be able to live together. I think she's wonderful, but definitely not something that I could do. However, if you feel confident in that and you think that sharing that space with someone would be exactly what you want within your residence experience in first year, you can still do that. So if you wish to request a roommate, you must form a roommate group by June 1st. So when you apply to residence, there is a roommate section, and I'll show you what that portal page looks like. And so we call it a roommate group. So the roommate group must align with all the rules outlined in the application. So you can only request one roommate. So you can't say, oh, I want to live in an apartment with all of my friends and just have this amazing house together. Unfortunately, that's not how it works in our system. So you can only apply with one person. I want to make this also very clear. Roommate requests are not granted for single dormitory style rooms, traditional or semi-private. So you're most likely going to be placed in an apartment style or going to be placed in a double dormitory style. So a double room where you share that space with another person most likely will not be granted for a single space. Both first and second residence preferences must match exactly on both you and your friend's application. So that means if I wanted to be roommates with Sarah, and Sarah, unfortunately, hadn't told me that, you know what, Rachel, I really just don't think that we're suited to live together. I think you're great, but I really don't want to room with you. She may slightly change her application so it looks a little bit different from mine because, you know what, we haven't had that crucial conversation. Therefore, we are not going to be placed together because we want to protect your friendship. We want to make sure that that's right. So if there is a difference between applications, we're making the assumption that that agreement hasn't been the same on both sides of this roommate grouping. So if you really want to live with your human and you want to live with that person, you need to make sure that your residence applications are identical. And if not, it's so much better to have that crucial conversation before you move into residence than after. Because if you're not placed together, that person's going to find out. They're going to say, why weren't we placed together? It doesn't make any sense. And then the conversation has to happen anyway. So just saying, if that's the case, you have to make sure your application looks identical. This is what that system looks like. So on the residence housing application, as we mentioned, there's the home page, the applications page, and then there's the roommates page. So this is where we call the roommate group, as I mentioned before. And this is where you fill out those requirements and would make sure that your applications are identical. So your friend will have a roommate code that they will have access to, and you will have a roommate code. So when you fill that out, you need to put that person's code in your application so that the system tells us, oh, they're partnered together. So that's what that process looks like. And then just when are you going to find out? When am I going to know what residence I'm living in, what space I'm getting, how I'm going to connect with people that I'm living with. So students receive their residence assignment by the first week of August via your My Laurier email. So as we mentioned before, when you apply to Laurier, you're going to receive a ton of things. It might be a little bit overwhelming. You're going to receive your Loris account information, which is your student profile, how you pay for tuition, how you sign up for classes. But you're also going to receive a whole new email, probably like your secondary school. You're going to get a new email where all important information is shared through Laurier's departments on campus, through your faculty or your professors, your teachers. And anytime someone needs to get in contact with you, your My Laurier email is what's going to be used. So you will get your housing application residence assignment through that email. If you have any questions at any point during the process, all questions can be directed to the Department of Residence by emailing either our Waterloo campus, if that's where you're looking to live, or our Brantford campus, if that's where you're looking to live. So housing@wlu.ca is the email for everything. You want to get in contact with someone, that's the email. However, please note, we have a small but mighty group of administrators at the front end of our office who respond to those emails. And there's a lot of people that ask a lot of questions, which is totally fair. But it does take quite a bit of time to get through and sift through all of those emails. If you do give us a call, it might be a little bit easier to connect with us. Again, knowing that there could be a wait line or a wait list for the calls to go through, because we get a lot of people, but we don't always have enough people on the other end. They're working feverishly hard to answer those questions. So if you have a question, better to email sooner rather than later, so you're not in the last hour before the June 1st deadline trying to get more information, or with regards to your placement, just knowing that we're trying to answer questions as quickly as possible. So in accordance with the Freedom of Information and Protection of Privacy Act, we call it FIPPA, only the student can contact the Department of Residence in regards to the residence application or room assignment. So unfortunately, mom, dad, or guardian cannot call on behalf of the student to ask questions about the residence application. I know that can be really challenging for the guardians who are probably supporting the student, have helped apply for residence, but now the student is coming to Laurier, coming to an institution, they're considered an adult, and their application is considered private. So if you're applying, if your student has applied to live within our residence spaces, we will only speak to the student. So you need to make sure that they're involved. We won't answer emails from parents or guardians. We need to connect with the student first, unless given direct approval by the student to communicate with the parent. Again, it's for the safety and security of the student. It's not because we don't want to answer your questions. We just want to ensure that we're doing what's right by the student. So just know that. Again, I promise we're getting to the fun part. So this is my last slide, and then it's Ryan's turn, and he gets to talk about all the cool things that are happening. So meal plans there's different residence meal plans depending on the style of residence you live in. So if you live in a dormitory style residence where your room comes off of the hallway and you have a common lounge, which it probably includes and will include a little kitchenette space, probably not where you're going to spend most of your time cooking your meals on a consistent basis, just because you're sharing that space with everybody in your community. There are 5 and 7 day all access meal plans to our dining hall on campus. So if you're someone who likes to or will know that, home is really important, I'm going to come and live in residence during the week, Monday through Friday, but I'm going to go home a lot of weekends because I want to be with my friends or family, or I need to support family members at home, the 5-day meal plan would make the most sense. However, if you're saying, you know what, see you later, mom and dad, guardian, I'm off, I'm going to live in my space for the entire year, the 7-day meal plan would be the best. So you can go in as many times as you like throughout the day and eat as much as you like throughout those time periods, either 5 days a week or 7 days a week. And then we have apartment style. So there is an apartment style meal plan. And the reason for that is, I don't know about all of you, but when I first came to residence, my cooking skills really meant craft dinner. That's what I felt. And so maybe Aiden can speak to more. Maybe he's got some great recipes in the back pocket. I was not that human. I burnt craft dinner quite often. So therefore, we have an apartment style meal plan because we want to make sure you can eat. So if any day you're like, oh, I just don't want to cook today, or I ran out of craft dinner, you can eat on campus and still have access to food services in our spaces. So we want to make sure that's a priority and that you have the requirements you need to access and still eat and live a healthy, well living life. So that's the goal. So our Brantford campus is a little bit different again in Waterloo. Those are our styles, but every apartment style, every building and resident space in our Brantford campus is all apartment style. So everything comes with an apartment style meal plan, but there are convenience dollars. So if you want more information on our Brantford campus, please refer to our Brantford information. And you can also email our one card office, which is where all of your meal plan requirements come through. So our one card office, which is your student ID card, it's onecard@wlu.ca. So, okay, now that I've shared my piece, and I know I tried, that's a lot of information. You're probably like on information overload. Take a breath. Think about those things, but again, you can always email us with more questions or ask us questions in the chat. I have not had a chance to check out the chat. So if there are things coming through, I think my team is trying very hard to do that. But now we're going to talk about what it's like to live in residence, how you can get involved, and how you can make the best of the experience in these spaces. All right, it's all you, Ryan.
Thanks, Rachel. Yeah, the chat had some great questions in it. So if we didn't get to yours yet, please sit tight, and Rachel and the rest of the panelists will be working away at them. But I get the very fun job of talking about some of the reasons why residence is a one-of-a-kind experience where it's hard to replicate it at any other time in your life, because there's so much opportunity to get involved and to learn so much when you're at school, but outside of the classroom. So some of the ways that that's made possible is through DONs and residence education advisors. So every community has a DON who provides one-on-one coaching to all the students living there. So the DONs are really there to get to know you as an individual, help you navigate this brand new system that you're kind of moving into. As I'm sure some of your teachers have described, and maybe parents or family members or whatever, university is different than high school, and it takes a much different learning approach, living out possibly for your first time, possibly not, but there's a lot to get used to. And so the DONs really want to get to know you on an individual level and work with you to make that work and to navigate all of your new responsibilities. In addition to the responsibilities, though, there's also so much fun that you can have with a group of students all living together, going through the same things. It's a great opportunity to build some really meaningful relationships and community. And so the DONs work very hard to make you all have a lot of fun, right? And then in addition to the fun, we also have to be very mindful of safety and security, and kind of making sure that the resident spaces that we're providing are safe spaces for everybody as we kind of have that fun that we're all really looking forward to. Residence education advisors are a little bit different than DONs. So rather than building that one-on-one relationship, residence education advisors work with a larger number of students than the DON, so that becomes more difficult. But they're a fantastic way to connect to campus resources all over the university. So your tuition goes a long way, and there's so many fantastic departments and supports available. It can be overwhelming to know exactly where's the best place to go for help at any given time. So a connection with your residence education advisor will really set you on the right track to make the most of the tuition that you're paying and connect you to all the most appropriate resources and get you the help or the support that you need as quickly as possible. We have a really good idea of some of the ebbs and flows of student life in their first year, because the Department of Residence primarily houses first-year students. And so with that in mind, the residence education advisors are able to deliver programming that's intentionally timed to be relevant to what you're going through, what you might be going through at a specific time. So some of the examples are, when do we actually really need to worry about how healthy we're eating and sleeping? Or when should we start to look at housing for next year when we're living outside of residence, before all of the spaces get taken up? And what do we look for in a lease? And all those kinds of things that you might be thinking about as a first-year student, or maybe you're not thinking about, but it's probably the right time to give it some attention. The residence education advisors really help with that. And then every year we see a different group of students, right? A different cohort. And so there's going to be different trends with every population. And so the REAs kind of have a macro lens on everything that's going on and can work to support some of the major things that are consistently happening.
Sorry, Ryan. I just anticipate, and then I've done this a couple times. I promise I will get better at this. Okay.
All good. Okay, so the average ratio of students to staff is 30 to 1. So that means every dawn that you can expect a community of about 29 other people plus the dawn. So that's about a manageable model for the dawn to get to know everybody pretty well and understand what supports you might need in terms of visiting counselors or talking to an academic advisor, talking to career counselors as you're getting ready for co-op or figuring out, how do you want to exactly specify your degree to put you on the path for where you want to be in the future. As I said about the residence education advisors, we really try to be timely and specific, making sure that everyone gets the support they need at exactly the right time. Residences also, in terms of safety and support, all the buildings are within a 5 to 10 minute walk of anywhere on campus. You'll find as you get your schedule that classes are spaced about 10 minutes apart, and it is very possible to get from any residence building to your class in 10 minutes, and from that class to the next class in 10 minutes. So that's really cool. There's also a whole bunch of supports available on campus to make walking safe and comfortable and easy. So buildings can be accessed through a variety of different ways. There's a swipe card, so that's your student ID is called your one card. Sometimes you swipe it, sometimes you tap it. There's also fobs if the building doesn't have one card access, which is like a little plastic thing that you just tap and magnets make some magic work and you get into the building. And then there's the old school keys that you're probably really used to and familiar with. But the Medco keys are very safe and secure. And so that's kind of some of the systems that we have to make sure that only the people who belong in our buildings or who are welcome there are actually getting in. So there are a lot of opportunities to get involved in residence, and I'm going to talk about all of those in a little bit more detail. But everything that you do in residence, whether it's a conversation with your Don or your residence education advisor, or something that you're getting involved in, is meant to contribute towards one of these 5 things, which we call our learning goals. So I'll read them all out: community integration and participation, self-awareness, life skills, equity, diversity, inclusion, and indigeneity, and academic curiosity and success. So there's a whole bunch of stuff that's baked into the residence experience. And we want that all to be, a very good balance of fun and developmental. So even as you're having fun, you're going to be learning a lot about yourself and who you are and what meaningful relationships mean to you. What are some of your responsibilities in your community? And as you're having like a fantastic time, hopefully you're going to learn about all of these things and work towards what we call self-authorship. So basically, you're in control of your own life, and how are we going to be intentional about the direction we're traveling? That's really overall our goal for what we hope to see you accomplish in residence. So to do that, one of the fantastic opportunities we have to get involved are residence learning communities through our Living Learning program. So on the Waterloo campus, there's 8 of them. There's the Faculty of Science Learning Community, Business and Economics Learning Community, Film and Media, Change Makers, Women in Leadership, Singer-Songwriter, Recreation and Outdoor Leadership, and History. So every year, the History RLC, it changes in theme, and when we're able to go international, there's usually a trip experience that's kind of connected to the theme of the community. So it's really, really cool. And all of these learning communities do very fun activities consistently throughout the year. If you're looking for more of a description, you can Google Laurier Residence Learning Communities. And we also have some students who have very generously volunteered their time, and they belong to some of these learning communities if you're looking for maybe an example of some ideas of what they've already done throughout this year. Additionally, we have the First Year Leadership Program, or the FYLP. So this is actually the #1 way that students get involved in their first year. So there's 2 ways of doing it. There's a council structure, which is pretty similar to what you might know from like your high school, like your student body, student council, that kind of thing. But in residence, every building has their own council. So there's a president, some vice presidents, and community representatives who all work to understand what are the interests and the needs of the building that we live in, and how can we plan some fun events to help everyone get to know each other, or to do some things that are important and really start to make our whole building community feel like one cohesive group. So the people who are on the first year leadership program councils do a lot of good for, it's a very fun environment. You're working all the time, but you're having fun with people with similar values and stuff like that together. And you're really providing a huge benefit to the students who you live on the same floor with and in the same building. Unfortunately, there's only 10%, about 10% of our residence population can get involved with the residence councils. So we also have the leadership certificate, which I think there's a few more slides on as well. So this is how the councils are structured on the Waterloo campus. So like I said, every building or every group of buildings has their own house council. So if you want to see some of the stuff that's going on, you can check out their Instagrams that are right here they're on my left-hand side. I don't know if it's flipped for you, but on the screen, you can check out some of the different buildings on Instagram to see what are they up to, what kind of stuff are they planning. The house councils, the purpose of those are very social-based programming. So it's just, hey, let's come together, let's help everybody get to know each other and have an awesome time in first year. Then there's campus councils. So there's 6 of them. That's we call it campus councils because it doesn't matter what residence building you live in, or if you're off campus, you can still participate in all of this programming, which is usually more themed. So if you're looking through the list there, you can see academic initiatives, arts, athletics and wellness, right? And so there's more of a focus for the programming rather than just being strictly social. And hopefully that's an opportunity where people can come together from all different buildings, meet some new people who they don't live in the same vicinity with, and connect over some shared interests. Waterloo Leadership Council is composed of students who are on either house council or campus councils, and I don't want to say it's like a governing body, but it's really provides like great coaching for the leadership development on students of both of those councils. So like I promised, the leadership certificate, this is kind of our response to recognizing that there's so much value that comes out of the council structure, but only about 10% of our students, we only have about space for 10% of our students to get involved. Although they can still, participate in the programming, only about 10% of people can actually structure it. So the leadership certificate is another way to connect in a cohort of up to 20 people and really look at leadership in a meaningful way and kind of have engaging conversations structured by upper year student leaders that challenge you to think about leadership according to your values, choices, collaboration, and resiliency. So this is available to every student who wants to get involved in their first year. Last year, 124 students received credit for completion, which we think is a big success because it's actually a pretty new program. So the leadership certificate, every week you'll participate in a workshop, and then there's a capstone sort of reflection. So the workshops take about up to an hour each, and their workshop is like a weird term because I promise they're very, very fun. They're conversational, and everyone is there to both learn about themselves, but also connect with a group of students and make some meaningful relationships. So it's a really good time, and you build some very, very, very valuable skills by participating. Okay, I think that was it. So it feels like I flew through that, but there's so many fantastic ways to get in touch, to get involved and to get in touch, but to get involved, right? And so if you have questions, keep sending them in the chat. But otherwise, you can stay up to date with us over the phone, email, check out the website. There's a lot of great resources posted there. We're on Twitter and Instagram as well. So all of the information is there. I encourage you to check it out. And maybe I'll give it back to Rachel to see if there's any questions that we need to answer live.
Yeah, so a couple pieces here. Again, amazing job. I also want our campus celebrities here to showcase their spaces because they have, I'm sure the decorations are great. Everyone wants to see where you're going to live. But I just wanted to say here, so there will be a recording, I assume posted by our recruitment and admissions team that'll be accessible. I'm not quite sure exactly where. So there will probably be information sent to you for all attendees who participated and for those that weren't able to attend, and access to all the content for the entire open house series. So stay tuned for that. Check your email, check our website, more details there. I also got some questions regarding any international students who may have trouble connecting with our offices regarding the residence application. So the housing application most likely won't open until around March, I would assume. So for now, there's no access to the housing application. We will send out information to all students for access once that does become available. So for right now, there's nothing you can do, but I think it's a really great, valuable point for us to connect with any students that need support or provide help. I also want to say, unfortunately, for the specific course requirements or tuition fees, we're not under that requirement. We mostly speak to our residents. Residence pieces are our residence housing requirements. So living in residence, what it costs to live in certain styles. But then we have different partners on campus that will house the specific tuition costs, fees associated to meal plans through the one card office, and those pieces. So I just want to make that clear. We will only be able to provide information. So if you want to, if you want to join residence for winter 2022, that's awesome. Highly recommend reach out to our housing email. So housing@wou.ca for more details there on ways that you can apply and fill out the application. So thank you for those. For everyone on the background, I see there are a ton of questions that were answered. So thank you for doing that. I'm going to stop sharing my screen because I want to make sure that we can show some rooms here. So amazing. Now I can see everybody again. Apologies if I didn't give you a shout out during the presentation. I just physically couldn't see you. So first and foremost, I want to showcase some of our spaces. And again, for those that are in a residence learning community or on the first year leadership program, please tell us a little bit about that too, what position you hold, some of the cool things that you've done or experiences you've had, relationships you've built. That would be fantastic. So let's start with maybe an apartment style residence space. So I know Hannah was making sure that her space looked great. So can I ask Hannah first to go?
Yeah, of course. All right.
Amazing.
260 Regina. It is a 5-bedroom, 5-bathroom apartment. So everyone gets their own bathrooms, which is really nice. I am on house council for my building. I am president. And it is very fun because we get to plan events for the whole building. We just finished our Halloween event where we did door decorating and we got like the whole building involved. It was really fun. So I'm gonna show you guys my room. Let's see how I can do this in like a proper way. So this is my room. I'm trying to like show it off in a good way. I have a fridge, dresser, bed, my desk over here. I have a nice closet. I'm not going to show it because it's a little messy. And then this is my bathroom, which is probably the best part about my building is that I get my own bathroom. So
nice.
That is my room.
Amazing. Stasser Hannah, thank you for going first and telling us a little bit about yourself. That's awesome. Can I jump in? Let's switch gears and let's show a dormitory style residence. So Charlie, can I ask you to show your space?
Sure, yeah. So right now I'm a Dawn and Conrad. So I have a bit of a different room since I'm a Dawn. But this is hold on, I'll switch my camera. This is what my space looks like. As you can see here, I've got like a pretty big closet. It's got like some storage here, lots of shelving and storage in there. I've got shelving under like storage under my bed, which is pretty sweet. Then like a whole desk area. Sorry, that's a little messy. Desk, big old window. I have my own fridge. I brought that. I've been saving that for a while. And then I get a little couch area, but if you're living with someone, you're probably going to, you know, have another bed there. So yeah, that's what my room in Conrad looks like.
If you noticed, Charlie also has some guitars in his space because he lives in a special community. Do you want to just tell us a little bit about that?
Right. So I'm the Don for the singer-songwriter residence learning community. And basically what that means is I run programming and events for 3 different floors in Conrad, actually. It's all of B-Wing. And it's basically just events built around singing and songwriting. So we just had a songwriting workshop. We went to a concert earlier in the year. Our next event is I'm planning like a talent showcase. It's mostly music students this year. But in the past, it's been like a big old mix of music and non-music students. Like I know Sam was in that community and she's not a music student. So yeah, that's what I have to say on that. It's a great time.
Fun fact, Samantha's younger sister was a legacy singer-songwriter student as well, because she was in it last year. I just love that. So, okay, amazing. Thank you, Charlie. I appreciate it. Could we jump to Michaela, because I'm seeing some decals on that wall and that looks fabulous. I want to see your decoration and how you've done that. So let us know what space you live in and your community.
Okay, so hi, my name is Michaela. I live in Waterloo College Hall, and I have a really cool kind of room, which I'll show in a second, but it's a single with a shared bathroom, and I have my own sink, which let me tell you, is fantastic. I'm also in the business and economics residence learning community. So I'm with all either BBA or econ students, which is really nice because we have programming, and our dons are awesome because they've just gone through it. So they're really helpful. And I'm also the VP of operations for my building's house council. So I guess I'll show you around my room. Oh, this is so awkward with the computer, sorry. So over here, I just have like my door. There's some shelving here and a fridge. And then here's my bed and that area. And then if I turn here, I have a sink and then like the desk area, and there's some shelves there. But then also, sorry, let me just turn on the light. There's a bathroom, like there's nothing special, but there is a toilet and a shower, which I share with one other person. So yeah.
Amazing. I don't know if y'all saw, but it looks like she's got her storage system down pat. She knows how to make the most of her space. So in your gray aesthetic.
Thank you. I would really recommend getting, since a lot of the space in my res specifically is like open shelves, I'd really recommend getting bins or something just to keep it organized, things separated, and also like not cluttered looking.
Amazing. Awesome. Okay, so I'm going to jump over. Bridget, would you be willing to show us your space? So excited.
Absolutely. So my name is Bridget. I'm in my 3rd year of biology, and I'm the Don of the 5th floor in Bricker. Bricker is our regular style apartment. It's also the only apartment on campus here at Laurier. So you're also going to get a little special because I am the Don. I get my own office, which I think I can turn my camera. I'm on my phone. Great.
Oh, that's easy.
Yeah, so starting here, I get my own office as a Don. Nice part about it is that we also get our own whiteboards and everything. So I just have a nice note for you guys. So welcome to our open house and welcome to lovely 4-5. And a great thing about me is I'm also the house council advisor, which I'll get into after I show off my room. So after my office, my room is right here. So Bricker basically comes with a simple bed. Because I'm the Don, my desk, usually for students, the desk would be located over here, but you'll definitely see with Aiden. But because I'm the Don, the desk is in my office. It's just a basic bed, have some decor, and then I have some compartments to put things, which should usually be used for books and everything, but it's not because I just put all my items there. But a great thing about Bricker is that they also have a lot of storage, kind of like what Charlie showed. I have drawers all over here and drawers everywhere basically, and some posters that I have in my door and just different like signs and like inspirational quotes I put all around my room.
Oh, obsessed. I love all the ivy and floral pieces you have hanging down. That looks amazing. Oh my gosh. You let me know.
Yeah.
Come decorate
Sorry.
my space.
And just to get into it, as I mentioned, I'm the House Council Advisor. So kind of going into the leadership aspect of here at Laurier. I'm the one who hired my council, and I'm just also the person who kind of facilitates and kind of helps what the students do in council to plan what we're going to do in our residency. But we also have our my Bricker Council president here on the call, so he can probably go more into the role as a student as council. But I'm just the person who kind of watches all the students and makes sure that they're doing their jobs.
What do you mean you're just the student? You have a
Well,
huge
I'm the upper year student. I'm just like that.
bias. You're probably affecting Aiden's life in such a phenomenal way.
For
We-
sure.
Yeah, so that's the cool part as well. When you get involved, you get to network and meet. I say network, that sounds super official. You get to have relationships with upper year students and get to know them and kind of have some support as you navigate your first year of university. So I know we're at 101. So if anyone needs to leave, that's okay, but we want to make sure that we get through our couple last groups because they've been here joining. They have some great spaces to share. So if you could hang out a couple more minutes, we want to show these spaces. But knowing that Bridget and Aiden are here, I want to jump to Aiden so then Aiden can show his space and what it looks like from a student perspective. Then we'll jump to Sarah and Sam.
Perfect. Hello, everyone. So I'm also in Bricker, like Bridget, and yeah, I'm here to show you my apartment. So I think I can also turn my camera around here. And so I've got a cool desk here with all that, nice shelving space. I've got my bed, some posters there. You guys can do whatever you want with your wall. A lot of storage space for your closet or for your clothes, sorry, which is awesome. Here, I can quickly open one of these, which is super cool. Awesome Laurier jacket. We've got some cool stuff there. And then, yeah, I guess I'll walk through the whole apartment. I can go through that as well. So I share a bathroom with one other of my roommates, which is pretty awesome. We've got a group closet here. And then over here, we have our kitchen. And like Rachel, I too came here with minimal cooking skills. Boiling water was definitely a challenge. But I've grown. I can do chicken parmesan now, which is awesome. There's a living room, and then there's two other rooms there and a bathroom, and then there's another roommate. And that's basically my whole apartment. I'm the Bricker president, which is pretty awesome. It was a great way of getting to know a bunch of people here. And I also get to plan a bunch of events, which is super, super cool. We've done some stuff like pumpkin carving and costume contests for Halloween. We've got a speed friending thing going on tomorrow, which is super, super cool. And yeah, that's kind of my space.
I love that. So again, when are we going to do cooking chicken parmesan with Aiden? What event is that happening? Because I would also like to learn how to do that. So if that comes up this year as a event plan, Bridget, if you say go to that, you let me know and I will be there. I think everyone on this call will be there. So thanks for sharing your whole apartment with us. I appreciate it. And then we're going to jump to Sarah, if Sarah wants to show us her space.
Yeah, okay. So I am a first year health science student. So I am in the science RLC, and then I'm also in house council for my building. I'm in King Street residence. So it literally looks the exact same as Michaela's room. It's just in a different building, but we'll do a little tour. Okay, so to start, we have the same closet that Michaela had. And then we got my little, I moved mine around. So I put my desk underneath the corkboard and then put my bed where Michaela's desk is. And then I have my little extra chair, my little Christmas tree, because I'm very excited, my mini fridge, and then these IKEA carts are absolutely amazing for literally anything. And then I also have my sink. My roommate's actually in the bathroom right now, so I can't do the bathroom part. But being in a science RLC is actually really great. I've met a lot of people not only in my program, but because like most first year science students take a lot of the same program, like classes anyways, even if they're not in my program, we kind of can do homework and stuff together, and we can always help each other out. And then I am VP of Marketing and Engagement for my house council. So I basically run the social media for our house council. It's absolutely amazing. It's super fun. And then I'm also on the WLC council, like the Waterloo Leadership Council, which is also super fun. It's like I've met so many new people. Yeah, it's pretty great.
Amazing. See, you can set up your space in so many different ways. So Michaela had the like gray and white aesthetic, and I'm seeing Sarah has like white perspective. See, you can make it your own space. I love the decor options. I'm a big fan of that. And then finally, I want to give it to Samantha Hudson, who can tell us a little bit about her residence education advisor role.
Hi, everyone. So I am currently not in residence. I decided to come home this weekend. Ironic, I know, but thus the lovely background I have here. So quickly, just wanted to talk about my role. If you do end up coming to Laurier and are in your residence in first year, you're gonna have a residence education advisor in your building or supervising it. And so just in case you were wondering what that is, basically, like Ryan said, I am more responsible for looking at the macro aspects of residence and facilitating residence-wide programming and supporting academic success and personal growth. I really focus on implementing residence curriculum and act as kind of a programming resource, but also a resourceful resource for the Dons throughout the year. I assess, I report, and I create programming that responds to what the community needs and what students need. So even though I kind of take on more of a building-wide perspective, I still love to communicate with students. In my building specifically, I'm also the house council advisor. I live in 260 and Hannah is my house council president. So I love getting to know the students at the same time. But unlike a Dawn, I can't really facilitate connections with 300 first-year students. So I kind of just get the gist of what's going on, what people need, and then students are more than welcome to come to me if they have any questions about like progressing in their academics, how to improve. I work with life skills as well, community integration and participation, diversity, equity, indigeneity, and inclusivity. And all of the learning goals. But yeah, that's basically me in a little paragraph.
Amazing. So essentially we have, I would say, a phenomenal residence program, because we really believe that residence isn't just a space that you sleep, eat, and study. It's a place that you're going to grow, you're going to learn, you're going to know how to make chicken parmesan, you're going to burn craft dinner. Sometimes you're going to make friends, you're going to connect with people from different countries and places around the world, or from different places in Canada. And so you're going to ideally grow as a person away from living from home. And so we try to create spaces where you can develop in your leadership, enhance your transferable skills that will help you get a job in the future, will help you learn about yourself and what you want to do when you grow up. I'm still trying to figure that out. But we want to create those spaces for you to do that. And so our residence environment is really rich and full of a lot of opportunities. So remember that when you're applying to residence, you also need to and can apply to a residence learning community. So that's in your residence application when you apply. If you want to live in a community of people, you want to participate in events related to that theme or that topic or program. And then once you join residence, you can apply to be a part of a leadership council or program through our first year leadership program. We call it FYLP. So there are great ways for you to get involved, to meet people, develop yourself personally. So thank you for those that hung out with us. I'm sure our lovely humans here also really appreciate that you were listening, that we got to show our spaces. And if you have any questions, again, reminder, please email housing@wlu.ca if you want more information. If you have any further questions, you want to hang back and chat to us, we're more than happy to do that too. But for now, I hope you enjoy the rest of the community spaces, the different sessions that you can go to within our open house. So thank you so much for joining us. We hope you have a fantastic Saturday and enjoy the rest of your academics in your secondary school. So thank you. Thank you so much, Kamal. That was amazing. Thank you. Appreciate it. I'm going to stop our recording here.